you look at the sketch, it is symmetric about this vertical line, so left and right are the same. So it might be better to sketch just half of it and then mirror to the other side. So let's do that. So let's create a sketch on any one of these planes, 3 planes. Let's just use a front plane. So there are 2 ways you can do. You can start from the sketch command, and then you can select plane that you want to sketch on, or you can select the plane you want to draw on first and then click on the sketch command. Either way, you'll have the sketch created. So now if you see the top right corner, you see these buttons. That means you're in sketch editing mode. And also in the bottom here, you see that editing sketch. So you can see that you're in sketch editing mode. And the command manager, the sketch tab is already automatically activated, and you see all the sketch command. I added that picture there. So this is not actually a sketch, it's just a picture file I just added. So as I decided, we want to use the let's say left half side of the sketch. So to do that, I'll use this centerline tool to draw a vertical line, and I'll draw the outer profile using line command. So starting from here, somewhere there, I don't care about the exact size yet, just focus on the shape. So if you move my cursor here, you can see the inference line. So just click on that, and remember that even if I click on the inference line does not apply the constraints to it. So I'm going to show the constraints here, the view menu, and show view sketch relations, and the sketch relations are given. So here, if you see, this endpoint is coincident with the vertical line, and that center line is of course vertical, and this top line is horizontal because I drew it almost horizontal, so automatically system adds the horizontal constraint, and the vertical line adds vertical constraint, and so on. So this is horizontal line, but this one does not lie exactly on this line. So I could do that, but just click on this point, and while pressing the control key, select this center line, and from the left hand side is the properties of the selection. So we have selected line, which is the center line, and point, that end point of the sketch, and since those two are selected together, their relevant applicable relations show up, and we want to make them coincident. Okay, so that coincident constraint shows up. So if you want to move it sideways, it won't move, it's only go up and down. Now I need to add a dimension, so use the smart dimension tool. So let's add vertically first. So this one is 3 inches, and the overall height is 4.5. So select the top line, select the bottom line, and move your cursor here, click on it, type in 4.5. Okay, now from here center to this line is gonna be half of 7.5. okay, because remember that this is the whole width is 7.5, we only drew half of it, so it's gonna be half of 7.5. Or another way is, why don't we just add the whole width of this one instead of just half of it? Because after it is mirrored, we want to know the overall width, not just half of it. To do that, one of the selection has to be the center line. Okay, so if you select the center line, and if you select another entity on one side, and that's going to be the distance between the center line and that line. But if you move your cursor to the other side of the center line, it's going to be a symmetric dimension. Okay, so if you move your cursor to the other side of the center line, so this happens because one of the selection is the center line. So if you click on it and I type in 7.5, now the overall width is going to be 7.5. And this width here of the triangle, the base of this triangle will be 2 inches. So that we can do by clicking on this endpoint or this line. So let's select this line and select this endpoint and move my cursor. So I'm going to say 2 inches. Okay. Now, if you look at the sketch, this one line is black because this location is fully constrained. Okay, but these 3 lines are still blue because their location you can randomly move. They can go up and down. So we want to specify the location of these lines. Okay, so we know that the top line is 2.5 inches above from the center point. Okay, so we just drew randomly here and we didn't add any relationship with the sketch origin except that it's on the center line. So we have set the location of these lines horizontally, but we did not specify any relationship vertically. So that's what you want to do. So we could put our center of the sketch, the center point, the origin, could be on this bottom here, or we could put it on the center point, or we could put it at the top. So let's just put it on the center of the circle. Okay, so here, let's consider that origin point is at the center of the circle. Now what you need to do is add this dimension 2.5 from the top to the center point. Okay, so I'm going to add a smart dimension from the top to the center point and 2.5. Now it all fully constrained. Okay, so we continue to do that until we fully constrain. Now at this point we can add these 2 circles. So we're going to add circles here. We'll focus on the shape, not the location or size. So I just drew those 2 circles, and then we need to specify their sizes and locations. So its location of this hole will be 1 inch from top and left. So I'm going to add smart dimension. Okay, from the top to this circle will be 1 inch. From this left line to this circle will be 1 inch. And its size is 1 inch diameter. So I'm going to add that 1 inch diameter. And the smaller hole is 2.5 inches from the top. That's one way. Or another way is this center point is aligned with this large hole in the center. Okay, so it depends on your design intent. So this hole has to be always kept horizontal, aligned with this big hole. Then you don't need to add another separate dimension here. So we have already added this 2.5 dimension here. And instead of adding another 2.5 dimension, my intent is that this hole has to be always horizontally aligned with a center hole. Then all you can do is, instead of adding that dimension, add a geometric constraint. At this center point, while pressing the control key, select the origin point together. So we have 2 points, and these are the applicable relations, horizontally aligned. Okay. And then another way is there's 1 inch from the left line. Again, if your design intent is that these 2 holes has to be always vertically aligned, okay, then instead of adding another dimension, you could just set them vertically aligned. Okay, if your design is such that later this hole, 2 holes, not necessarily aligned vertically, then you might want to add separate dimensions so that you can have controls each hole. But here, let's assume that these are always vertically aligned. So instead of adding dimensions, we'll add geometric constraints. Select those 2 here, vertically aligned. And now the locations is set. We need to add is diameter, which is 0.52. Alright, so all the sketch entities are fully constrained except for this endpoint of this center line, but that's okay because this center line could be just anywhere. Length is not important, it's just location, and orientation is the important one. So we want to mirror this on the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a box selection. Okay. And then in the sketch, there's a mirror entity command. Mirror entities. And so these all entities are selected. And make sure the copy is checked. Otherwise, this side will be erased. You'll have only end up having the mirror the other side. So mirror about. We want to mirror about this vertical line. And you can see the preview. You say OK. Now you see the other side. One thing left is the center hole. Add the dimension 1.87. Sorry, 1.87. And the sketch is fully constrained.